Good day, I'm David.
And I'm Dave. Welcome to the OFFSITE
Insight Podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Creative Co-op. If you ever need any advertising or design needs, reach out to Gino and the team. We are so excited today to be joined by the current mayor of the city of Barrie, Alex Nuttall. Alex, welcome so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Alex, you've been in the position of mayor for now 4 years, ish, a little
Ish,
under
3 and a half,
3 and a half years. And
Sure, it feels longer some days.
No, it's been a good time.
Is it everything that you expected and more?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting role because my previous roles have been on city council and then a supportive role as a member of parliament, where our job as the opposition party served in a number of shadow minister roles, but our real job was to find the things that weren't going as they should and then create opportunities for them to go as they should. But it was always somebody else in the decision-making seat. And so the role of mayor is you really are in the decision-making ideas side. And it requires a ton of time to make sure that those decisions are all of the right information is going into them, but B, the implementation goes the way that it should. And so I've really enjoyed it. It can take 100 hours a week. It can take 50 hours a week. It doesn't usually take less than that. But I find a lot of fulfillment and a lot of love for the position.
Fantastic.
So do you think it's a position that you want to continue to be in? Quite ready to let her know.
At the appropriate time, we'll share that with the community. But I love I'm honestly loving what we're doing, and I'm loving the team I'm working with. Like it's not every day that you get to wake up and go and work with people that number one, it's a very friendly, good environment at City Hall. Number two, I respect all the people that we're working with, and I feel like there's a mutual respect. So that really lends itself to a good atmosphere and then being able to get good decisions and good actions. So we'll see where it all goes, and at the appropriate time, make that formal.
Okay. Fantastic. October is a long way away, right?
It is a long way away. We'll blink and it'll be gone.
That's right. So, we're a part of the Simcoe County Homebuilders Association, and one of the issues that I think is near and dear to your heart in many different ways as your job as mayor and in your history, Barrie's growing very quickly. So when you look at housing and infrastructure and affordability, what keeps you up at night? And then further to that is what gives you confidence that we're on the right path?
So housing, infrastructure, and affordability, I think that there's multiple pieces in all of those, and I don't mean to go on too long, but I'm going to start from the back end, which is affordability, and then work our way forward. Affordable housing and what I'll refer to and is widely accepted as attainable housing are two different things. There's affordable housing, which is really focused on rental stock, focused maybe on the individuals that need help the most in order to have a roof over one's head. Yep. And you then have attainable housing, which is being able to purchase a home, right? And being able to get into home ownership. And these things are disconnected in the sense that one is really about market and supply and demand and the cost of building a home. The other one is about ensuring that there's a service there so that we don't leave people behind in society.
Right.
And so, I have experience of both. When it comes to affordable housing, I spent time about 6 years inside of Mill Creek, which is a large affordable housing project in the south end of Barrie. Grew up there, and without it, we would have been on the street. So affordable housing is needed. Having said that, the most important day of my life was going into home ownership. Right. If you want to break the cycle of poverty that I was living in, the way to do it is to get into home ownership. And so while these are disconnected streams of housing, right, they are connected in the sense of how they impact society. And so on affordable housing, we've put $80 million into a program, $63 million of that, 64 almost, is being spoken for. What that's doing is we're waiving development charges if builders of purpose-built rental are willing to do 20% affordable housing inside of their buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 20,000 plus units sitting right now, approved, ready to go, that aren't getting built.
Right.
Like, we don't have a city hall's too slow problem, right?
Yep.
We have the market isn't right problem.
Yep.
And so with that, we're actually seeing great pickup. There's going to be about 1,950 to 2,000 units that are going to start construction in May of this year. Of those, we'll have 470 some odd new affordable housing units getting built. There's the Coral project on Bayfield and Sophia that is going up with 44 affordable units and 60 some odd purpose-built rental market units. There's the County of Simcoe at Rose Street that's building right now. And there's also Mapleview Church, which is putting up 31 units. So when you put all that together, like 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we're going to have an immense amount of new affordable housing, right? And so that affordability piece, one, you'll have affordable housing for those that need that service. Two, you all of a sudden will have 2,500 to 3,000 new units overall that will hopefully provide a little bit of glut in the system.
Yep.
To bring down the overall cost of renting. Building's a different case. I don't know what the answer is, and I don't think anybody knows what the answer is at this point. We're going to look at options with development charges over the next 4 or 5 months to try to spur some action there.
Sure.
But it is, the entire system is broken at the moment.
Yeah, I think if you were to say, oh, it's a municipal issue, because it's not. You can see this across, Ontario. You can see it across Canada. You can see it in other developed nations as well. Like, housing is a challenge that I don't think anyone has solved. So it'd be unfair to put that on just the mayor of Barrie, but really,
I think so too.
But really, it's a problem that's faced, across society. There's just been this escalation of costs that don't equal necessarily the input when people look at their paycheck on the way home. Right?
Yeah.
So, what, from your perspective as mayor, where do municipalities and the home building industry work best together?
I think that there's a lot I've learned from the Home Builders Association over the years. There's a lot I've learned from ResCon, from Build. There's a lot I've learned from, residents at large coming and explaining an individual issue they're facing, right? Because when you can see what the challenges are and understand the challenges, then I think it's a lot easier to get to the opportunity that exists to figure out how to get a solution in place. I think that the encouragement that I always give to organizations that are trying to influence public policy, whether it's the municipal, provincial, or federal level, I'm here obviously as municipal, is always get in at the beginning, right? When you hear something happening, or when you get a call or an email that says, hey, the city of Barrie is looking at changing the zoning bylaw. I'm just pulling this out of a hat, right? Mm-hmm. It's a lot easier to influence that with the common sense you're going to provide at the beginning of the process than to show up once it's all written down and it's all been, tested in the places it's been tested, maybe not in some of the right places, but it's been tested in places. And then say, no, this is all wrong.
Yeah, the road's already built.
Yeah, exactly. And so, it doesn't mean it's too late at that point, because it's part of the public process, but it does make it a lot more difficult and a lot slower.
Yeah.
And I think speed, home builders associations can have a very positive influence on our policies. Building code, right? We need to have, right now, we need our home builders associations to be influencing the province when it comes to the review of the building code. Yeah. That's a major piece that you struggle with, right?
Certainly.
And it's like, it started this big and then went this big, and now it's 5 binders and probably that big, right?
Yeah.
It's massive.
Yes.
And so, there's a very sweet spot at the beginning of these public policy processes that home builder associations can have mass influence.
Yep.
And especially when you're looking at the provincial level, like when you're all working together as the Ontario Home Builders Association, that carries a lot of weight. Yeah,
and I think, to your point, it's the Ontario Building Code, and so it's up to each individual municipality to interpret that. And most builders or contractors or renovators that I know work in multiple municipalities. So sometimes that inconsistency is really what drives a lot of the frustration, because you go to one municipality to build something, this is what you need, this is what you need, this is what you need. You go to the next municipality to build the same thing, and it's a different list of things that you need, and we're still trying to work from the same document. So I think you're right. Like,
so you nailed one thing there, like the consistency across municipalities is an issue.
Yeah.
Right? Like, why is there a different expectation when you step over like these artificial boundaries?
Absolutely.
Right? That really is just a division of government bureaucracy, right? And then I don't say that in a negative sense. It just is what it is.
Absolutely.
There's a different set of public servants over here than there.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think that one of the things a province can provide real help and support with is streamlining the interpretations of their own laws, right? like don't just say thou shalt not or thou shalt, right?
Yes.
Like give us the case of how that gets interpreted on the ground.
Yeah.
That would be a big help for you folks as you're doing work.
Yeah.
I want to push back on that a little bit, because from what I understand, the reason why different municipalities interpret the laws differently is because they want to preserve the traditional character of the place where they're from. I mean, we don't want, and maybe there's a good point to that. Like, we don't want every town and every city to look the exact same. It would look like some kind of weird, like, dystopic future thing. I think we want to preserve a little bit of culture, the
character, right?
Character, yeah, exactly, from the hometown feel. So, do you think that there's, rather than going from provincial command on high down to municipal, is there space for something in between, like a regional standard, a Simcoe standard?
You know, I think that there's probably not today, right? In the sense that, well, I'll give you an example, a real live example, okay? So, you know, we're in the city of Barrie. You guys have grown up here, right? I've grown up here. I've lived here since I was 3 years old. For the last 37 years, because I'm 40 years old, I've heard people say, we need more jobs in Barrie. You guys familiar with this?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
We don't just say that for Barrie. We say that for, really, it's like, when we say Barrie, we're talking about a regional market area, right? And we'll be funny and we'll call it the Greater Barrie area. Okay.
I love it.
So
I have to laugh. My brothers and I have called everything the Greater Oro area for forever. And it's obviously like Oro is the smaller place, but we're in the GOA.
Well, I mean, yeah, Oro is a big place. Geographically, it's
very
humongous. But
do they really need all that space?
I think that it's funny, because when we start having the conversations about like jobs and housing, and then saying, okay, like, we have a need for jobs related land. Okay, if you look back to the Innisfil annexation, it was supposed to be about jobs. And actually, weirdly, because I'm known to be pro-builder, pro-development, okay? Because I think that's where opportunity comes from for our own young people and citizens. The interesting thing is, my final vote on that, I voted against the annexation of the Innisfil land. Why? Because they changed the ratios of housing to jobs. So the ratios were supposed to be 3-to-1. Every single job would have 3 people moving into the area. In the final piece of that, it ended up going from I think it went to 9-to-1, 45,000 people, 5,000 jobs. Oh. And so you look at that ratio, it's supposed to be 30-10, then it goes 45-5. 3-to-1 I can understand. There's going to be, home businesses and stay-at-home dads and moms and all that stuff.
Retirees,
yeah. 9-to-1, right? Like that ratio just doesn't make sense. So then you see it play out over the last 15 years, right? And what have we seen? We've seen massive population increase. Just in the last 3.5 years, in December of 2022, the city of Barrie's population was 146,000. Today, it's 170,000. By the end of this year, it'll be 174,000. So, let's just use round numbers, call it 30,000 people in 4 years. Do we have jobs that match 30,000 people moving to the city in 4 years? Okay.
No.
And that's just math, right?
Yeah.
Then I go to our surrounding municipalities and say, we got a problem, right? Not only have we done all this, but intensification has intensified over the last number of years, right? And so like we end up with, okay, there was 5,000 jobs for 45,000 people, but that's actually now like 65, 70,000 people with intensification, buildings going up, all that stuff. And then you add on, well, Barrie doesn't have like a hard border that you can't come in to work in, and you can't go outside to work in. There's been massive growth around the city of Barrie. And I'm not even talking about Innisfil. You go north and look at the Midhurst secondary plan, look at the growth at Horseshoe Valley, like all of these communities that surround the city of Barrie are growing heavily. And so those numbers are like 100,000 new people to 5,000 new jobs.
Right.
And yet we couldn't get agreement that there needed to be more land set aside for jobs between Barrie and the surrounding area. So to say that we could come up with a maybe Simcoe solution, to me, is like, yeah, theoretically, 100%. When it comes to having the same priorities amongst many politicians, no, I don't think so. And if I can just give you one more second on the soapbox, because I think this is important. In Simcoe County, so City of Barrie, there's 11 members of council. We have 170,000 people, right? In Simcoe County, you have an average of 7 people per council. There's 16 municipalities. So whatever that equals, 6 times 7 is 42, 10 times, so it's 112, okay? So you got 112 members of councils. They also then 2 from each municipality sit on the county council. Okay, so now you're 2 times 16, 32, so you're 112, so 144, I think. So you got 144, give or take 5, right? That, you add on top of that, Orillia and Barrie, you're at 180 politicians or 170 politicians for an area of 550,000 people. You compare that to the city of Toronto with like 45 for 2.5, 3 million. Like we've got too much government, too many politicians in the mix.
I think that's an interesting perspective, and I agree with the sentiment that we have to be mindful of how many people we're asked to represent. I look to the federal level, and it's 117,000 people per MP is generally the guidelines that they use. My frustration,
that's the average. The guideline is
Sure.
actually 90 to 100.
Sure. Okay. So the average is 117.
Yeah.
Whether it's 90,000,
Yeah.
when I think about that, is how do you as an individual person be able to appropriately represent 90,000 people is a really challenging thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, you'll hear Mr. Premier Ford say it all the time. The people in the municipal level are the ones that are closest to the people,
100%.
right? And so I think, I would say, hey, maybe the number's not correct. Maybe it doesn't need to be 144, but I would challenge that it needs to be significantly smaller than that, because we need to have those local representatives who are closer to the people, who aren't looking after 15,000 people, right? Because most of the municipal issues are ones that directly affect them super close. It's like, hey, is my road getting paved? Is it getting plowed? These are the issues that you can't field 90,000 comments about my individual street, right?
I accept that. I think that if you're looking at it though, like some sort of standardization as to what the numbers aren't. Federally, it's 90 to 100.
Sure.
Okay, but you look in the city of Barrie, we're now moving to rep by pop to even out the growth in the south end of Barrie versus north end. So traditionally it was 6 seats in the north end and 4 in the south end. Now it's 6 in the south end and 4 in the north end because of obviously the expansion into the Innisfil annexation. But they're going to be 17,000 on average, right? Because 170,000 people, who get 10 of them. And then you compare that with municipalities of 8,000 people with 7 members of council.
Right.
Is the number, 1,150? Right. Or is the number 17,000? Or is it somewhere in between, or somewhere larger?
Absolutely.
Right? Yep. I think that there some sort of standardization to that needs to take place. And what it would do, just from our perspective, is like you all of a sudden don't, when I go to the county and ask for something, like I have to get 16 mayors, 16 deputy mayors to work with also the mayor and members of council from Aurelia, and then you've got 4 representatives in Barrie. Like, at what point, if you go to the federal recommendations for public sector boards, like it literally says you should have, this many connected parties to be put on them, but also says, like, here's the size of a board that makes the most sense, and it's like talking to the 10 to 11 for that. So, like, when I look at all the different inputs from a regional perspective, in order for it to make sense, and I've actually struggled with this because we have servicing, right? We have water, we have wastewater, we have electricity, we have buses, we have Georgian College, we have Lakehead University coming. We've got all of these things that cities have that rural areas don't. But there's one thing that the rural communities have that the city doesn't, and that's land, right? So regionally, you'd think, okay, why don't you work together and put those things together, right? But when the prospect is me going from working with 11 people to working with 150,
right,
that becomes a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's an important conversation to have in general, right? I'm not saying that what we have right now is perfect, and I don't think you're saying my solution is perfect, but it's like, let's have a conversation to figure out, hey, we've been doing this municipal government thing for X number of years. Let's actually look at it and say, hey, is this effective? Are we making progress for the people that we represent at the end of the day?
And the county's having that conversation, right? They're trying to go from 30, well, some of them are trying to go from 32 to 16. And some aren't, but I think that they're having that own internal conversation of how we do this more efficiently, more effectively, which I totally respect. I think they're going in the right direction, at least asking the questions in the right direction, because we all know what the current status isn't actually, the most efficient.
Right. Yeah, and then hey, we could argue about how to best govern citizenship for a long time because they've been doing it for hundreds and thousands of years, right? And I think we live in, hey, don't get me wrong, Canada, Ontario, Ormondonte, Barrie, it's a great place to live, and I think sometimes we forget that we're actually more aligned than we are on a great number of issues. But it's, hey, we're arguing about the margins. Let's figure out, okay, is this all good? Great. Let's continue to focus on and do a better job.
100%. And I was one of your constituents out in Ormondonte. I lived there for 4 years, right? My kids, their mother grew up in Springwater, right? And so, I was the member of parliament for Oro and Springwater. The idea that we don't understand each other's positions and get along is, I don't think that's fair. There is this struggle though between what growth should look like.
Sure.
And I think it starts at the provincial level, actually. Like they come down and say Barrie's got to be 300,000 people in 2051. What is that? We're 170 today. So what does that look like? That means we've got to go up by 140,000 in the next 25 years. And how does that play out? And then the surrounding municipalities are saying, like, well, we're kind of the tail of the dog, if you will, if we call them Barrie dog. And we kind of get whipped around because of all this growth is really centered there. And then we're kind of left out of the equation, out of the conversation. So I think that's where, like, the conversation about regional government's a good one to have.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's like you have to make your company investable if you're looking to bring capital into your company.
Sure.
And it's not investable when you have 100 and something political positions to tie off. It's a very difficult situation, and we're not the only ones in this. Like, it's across the province. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there is a good argument to be made for a regional governance structure to represent everyone. And obviously, I think on the county level, there's challenges because they've already instituted there's voting power depending on how many constituents you have in each member municipality, which I think makes sense. Land doesn't vote, people do, believe it or not. So you want to make sure you're giving the authority to the people who are there, right? So Bradford, West Gwillimbury, Innisfil, they've grown tremendously in the last 15, 20 years, as we've all seen. So they should have, I think that makes sense. It's a good question to ask. They should have more representation in theory at the county level, or do we figure out a way to regionalize, as you've said, the government to take into account the city of Barrie, the city of Orillia, and the other member municipalities as they currently stand in a way that makes sense to grow the region sustainably and effectively.
I have a question, and maybe I'll form it in, in a statement. I'm not certain that it's plausible to reduce the size of governments or governing bodies and municipalities below something like 5 or 8 people. It seems like there's too much room for groupthink, and as Canadians, we value pluralism. So
100%.
a handful of perspectives is in line with really what's at the core of being in Canadian politics. So, and what you're saying is really, it's intuitive. I mean, it makes sense to me that rural areas with lots of land would want to build factories and manufacturing centers, places, commerce, all the things that provide us with jobs because they can and others can't. And from what I understand, everybody wants a job and a house. And so this all seems like it's pretty aligned in terms of, or from the standpoint
But what
of
if they didn't?
a citizen.
What if they didn't want to build factories outside of the city?
Well, so that's I suppose my question is, who doesn't? Right? Is it are we actually, or is the government representing the will of the people? One of the questions I wanted to ask you is, in this next election, because I recall 3.5 years ago, we had very poor voter turnout in Barrie.
Mm.
And it was kind of disheartening. And I think that there's a lot of political apathy for a number of reasons. How do we get voters to turn out and actually express their perspectives with their vote?
I think the municipal level is the place where you see special interest groups play the large role. It is, it's really difficult on the federal level for special interest groups to sway enough to overcome, 70% of people voting, right?
Mm-hmm.
It becomes, 50% to 55% on the provincial level. It becomes 30% on the municipal level, which all of a sudden becomes something that you can influence by organization in a pretty substantive way.
Okay, and so before you continue, when you say special interests, can you define that? Because people hear that and think Illuminati.
Yeah,
or big oil,
or big oil.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because we have this conversation in Barrie Council, and it's like, okay, so a special interest is a group that's formed to influence the outcome of a vote. It could be the election, right? Or it could be a policy piece at City Hall, or it could be, I don't know, there's any number of things it could be. The reality is that there are those on the right, big business interests. Mm-hmm. We'll call developers is a good example. Home builders associations or special interest groups, just being honest.
Sure, yeah.
But there's those on the left as well, right? That you typically say are on the left in terms of, like, could be an environmental group, it could be a whatever. Then there's a lot in the center, like a taxpayer group where everyone feels like they're part of it, right? Mm-hmm. So, what I've seen happen, and this happens more in smaller places than it does in larger places, like it's pretty difficult to pull this off in the city of Barrie, is that you end up having special interest groups that mobilize in specific neighborhoods. So you can say, like, well, that's actually the democratic process. And it is, right? Mm-hmm. But when you have a 30% voter and then the voting tendency within this special interest that needs a specific special thing is like 90%, that means that it's being made up for by only 15% of the average vote, right? And then you can see an entire election change everything, right? You can, and it can be on a specific policy thing. It can be, there's a whole bunch of different things it can be. It's not always bad. Like it's a very important part of our democracy is people get to work together to, take on government policy or elections, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not all bad, but it does, the system, because there's only 30% vote, it does make it very, very, very tenable that you would have an overweighted impact from special interest. And like, I look at the city of Barrie, right? I don't know much about any of the other municipal governments. Like, I interact with them, I can't judge because I don't know. Mom and pop, right? Don't have jobs in Barrie. They're going to Toronto, right? And they get on the road at 6 and they get home at 7. And then we're like, hey, by the way, can you go to that local rec center, church, or whatever, and cast a vote on a thing that they, haven't even had the time Monday to Friday to pay attention to be able to understand what's happening. It's tough. And so the more dislocated you are from your local community, the less inclined you probably are to go vote. When you're thinking provincially and federally, like if I work in Toronto and I live in Barrie, that provincial election hits me in the same way in both places. Mm-hmm. That federal election hits me the same place in both places, same way in both places. But when you come back to municipal, it's like we have too many people in the GTA and beyond, because I consider us beyond, that rely on going to Toronto and being dislodged from this community. It's like we're tourists in our own city, right? Like you show up on the weekends and you have fun on the hills or the water, and then you go back to Toronto for the rest of the week, except for, you sleep here.
Right? Yeah, I've lived that life.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So that rat race is no fun.
It sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't realize that was, it seems to me that that's a part of your motivation for bringing more of a marketplace to Barrie.
100%. We missed an opportunity. It turns out the opportunity is maybe going to be missed anyway. But we missed an opportunity in the city of Barrie when they were going to expand the electrification, the EV vehicles at Honda. Like we had an opportunity to be in the mix to see where that went. The problem was the land. Yeah. Great Gulf just built 310,000 square feet. It might be 305, maybe 315, but just call it 300,000 square feet on Dunlop Street for Sherwin-Williams. They're bringing jobs in from the United States, mm-hmm. okay, to Barrie. Like, what a story. Mm-hmm. They got asked in front of the entire city. I didn't prep them, didn't know what they were going to say. They got asked in front of the entire city on the Chamber of Commerce, like, what's your next project? They said, like, Barrie's the best place we've ever done business. Like, staff here have just made it easy to create jobs. But we don't have any prospects of land to be able to bring more Sherwin-Williams to Barrie. And when those are the problems, it's just so fundamental. It's just math, right? If you don't have it, you can't get it. So if we can fix that, and there are some new horizons in terms of investment coming in for jobs, if we can fix that, which we've done, and protect it, unlike what happened in the Innisfil annexation, it's going to be good for Barrie, yes, but it's going to be good for the entire
Greater Barrie area.
Exactly, to create jobs. I think most of Simcoe County and even into Muskoka will be like, this is good, right?
Yeah.
To get there has been a 3-year struggle. It's going to be something that I think everybody will agree at the end, assuming we implement the right way, right? That was a good thing to be able to provide that type of growth, for Barrie to provide those services, to have put it on public transit, to get those connections between industry and education and Georgian College and Lakehead. We've got some real opportunities, and I'm telling you, we have real opportunities for big industry coming to Barrie. I spend a lot of time on this. It's turned into the number one issue. Number one issue was encampments. Now it's jobs, right? So that's the number one thing I'm dealing with every day.
Well, maybe we should talk about the encampments.
You made
a bold decision to declare a state of emergency to clear out the encampments.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you maybe a bit of a poking question. Why did you let it get to a state of emergency?
It's interesting. If you go back, it'll be 8 years from now. I actually asked them to declare a state of emergency in Barrie then. I went to Barrie City Council. I was a member of Parliament at the time. They were discussing putting an injection site in. And my feeling has always been, and I wrote a 50-page report on this as a member of parliament, that injection sites are places where you go to do unsafe activities. And no matter how hard you try to make that activity that safe that day, it doesn't replace the need to stop the unsafe activity, right? And so I went there and said, like, folks, we need to focus on rehab. We need to get major money and investment in system, and we need to do it now because we're seeing skyrocketing numbers when it comes to deaths, opioid-related deaths. It's an emergency. Call it what it is, right? Like, the only thing worse than having an emergency is pretending it doesn't exist, right? So that never happened. It was defeated, I think, 6-5 at the council. And so you fast forward 7 years. I took every possible turn to fix the problem without declaring an emergency. You know, there's heart hubs in this province because myself and a couple other mayors fought very hard to get rehab heart hubs in this province. That was already happening prior to declaring a state of emergency. There was massive shelter dwellers put out in the system because we fought very hard. And I've spoken to Premier Ford on many occasions on this, and he has been nothing but supportive of the city. There's the time it takes for government to move is glacial, right? And that's not an attack on any individual. Like, it doesn't matter. It could be Alex Nuttall as premier, it could be Dave and David as premier. It's just government's glacial, right?
Yeah.
And so when we get to a point where there are, we have the money coming down the system. So it's all, we can see it coming, right? We can see the programs coming. The courts have said we can't remove the encampments, right? So I don't know if you know about those court decisions. Basically, you can't do anything on public land unless you have proper housing for the individuals that are in encampments. Who runs that in this area?
Simcoe,
the city of Barrie?
Simcoe County.
Simcoe County, okay? So the city of Barrie can't go remove the person unless the county provides a bed for that person, right?
Okay.
And I'm realizing, did I hurt the mic thing by taking this off?
Your mic is hiding behind you. If you want to throw it on, that'd be great.
Yeah. So what ends up happening is we get to a point where is that it?
Yeah, you're doing well. That's
okay.
Great. Yeah, that's great.
So we get to a point where there's a double murder, and people that we actually probably knew, because I skated a lot in this town, that have been killed inside of this encampment, and worse, right? But at that point, it's like, this is no longer a thing that I'm waiting for the money from the province. It's no longer a thing that I can beg the county for a bed, right? There's 180 tents in this city or structures. I'm taking control, right? We pay taxes to the province to provide these things. We pay taxes to the county to provide these things. It ain't getting there fast enough for us. You want the proof? There was a double homicide, right?
Yeah.
Declare the state of emergency. The police actually went in and declared it an emergency scene. When they go in and they shut it off. So they ended an encampment like that, right?
Yeah.
Because they have the power to do that. We didn't, because of the court decisions. So then we start looking at the E. coli levels in the water around it. We asked for help from other regional organizations, and I'm not going to take a shot at anybody because we've dealt with it since, but regional organizations to come in and provide health-related advice on what we do, because it's not healthy in these places, right? And get ignored, so then we take that on. And we start testing the water everywhere to figure out, then go to the province. Hey, here's the response, here's the actual levels, right? We believe it's an emergency. What do you think? Province says, yes, that's an environmental emergency. So now we have a police emergency, an environmental emergency. related to encampments in the city of Barrie. And so I took the following, like from the moment that happened until I think it was the 6th or the 9th of September, when we declared the state of emergency, to get everything in a row. And we told the county, be ready, this is what's happening. What a state of emergency did for us was it allowed us to bring everything inside, right? So basically, when you stand up an emergency response team, your chief administrative officer, it's like the chief bureaucratic person for the city, chief public servant, becomes the center of all decision making. The police report, the fire report, the county reports, everyone reports that person. So for the first time in history, or at least the last 25 years, the city of Barrie became in charge of really the response to social services in the city of Barrie. And what have you seen since then?
No encampment.
We have a maximum of 2 tents on any given day. One of those tents disappears every day because the 2 people sleeping in it put their tent up at night and take it away in the morning. So, we've seen a marked difference in approach since then. The county, and I'm going to give them praise here, has stepped up, right? They have stepped up. And I hate that it took what it did in order for it to be bad enough to be perceived that action needed to happen immediately. But since then, they've stepped up, and the provincial funding's all fallen in place. So some of this is timing. Some of it is it was out of our control, and some of it was listening to my own advice from 8 years ago. It is has been an incredibly frustrating file. I don't feel that way anymore. I moved my chief of staff out of the mayor's office to oversee this response, right? That's how much I believe that this needed to be the thing. And for the first time ever, the city has an individual, and probably will have more individuals, that oversee the implementation of social services, and we're not responsible for social services.
Right. And that's, that ties us back to the conversation we were having earlier, is how do we set up a regional governance that makes sense, right? Because, if you told someone, hey, by the way, the city of 146,000 people isn't directly responsible for social services, social housing in specifics, how does that work? Right.
And it doesn't. It hasn't.
Exactly.
Right?
It hasn't.
And I'm not saying that there's not opportunities to make it work in a more regional focus, but I'm saying it just hasn't worked. Right. And you try explaining that to 146 or 170,000 people. Like, how many times we have this conversation? It's like believe me, I want to withhold the funding to the county and deploy it ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't do it by law.
Right.
Yeah. And let me ask a question. So I'm a big supporter of our warden. I supported him in his endeavor to go into senior levels of politics. Friends of mine helped manage some of his campaigns, or at least volunteered in his campaigns. How big is Romero Township?
I want to say 15,000, maybe.
Okay, so my counterpart at the county, because I'm mayor, CEO of City of Barrie. He's warden, CEO of the county. Right. Are the problems that he faces day to day anything close to what we face day to day? And I'm not saying the problems are worse or better. Like, I'm not comparing the problems but comparatively, are they the same?
In terms of scale.
In terms of either scale or type. Like, are the
complexity?
Types,
sure. Yeah. There's differences. Absolutely.
Massive differences. Is there a homeless person in Romero? Like, there might be. I don't know.
Right.
But there's not 180 tents. There's not massive shelters. There's not, all of the things that we've been struggling with over the past, 10 years. And so one of the struggles that we face in the city is, like, I really respect the warden. I just don't think that, he's going to be hearing the same thing on the ground in Romero that I'm hearing inside of the city of Barrie. And so it takes, if you think about it, it's like it takes time to get these messages up and through, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And so the city of Barrie resident calls me and says, Alex, fix the homeless problem. and we're like, okay, we're providing services, we're helping these folks. It's actually done through the county. It's not done through us. Just get it done. I can't.
Right.
I can't. But you know what I can do? I can do the same thing that you did just now. You called me. Now I'm going to call the county and say the same thing. And the county's going to call the people that they, procure to do the work, to do the same thing. And then that administration is going to call whoever's on the ground doing the actual thing to make the change.
Yep.
But the time it takes to go up from the ground in Barrie to the county, down to the administrative, whoever's procured, down to the ground, like it's a system that isn't maybe set up for success. Although I hope I see changes in that with Heart Hub and other things.
So so I want to follow up because I asked the question and I asked it in a bit of a provocative way.
Yeah.
Why'd you let it get to that point? So it's been 8 years in the making. It's been
It's been more than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been 8 years since I asked for an emergency to be declared.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably been 15 years. When I was in city council, I left in 2014, there was the start of encampments. And then in 2020, the encampments got sanctioned by the city of Barrie.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're not talking about a situation where it's like somebody just going and setting up a tent. No, there was actually like institutional sanctioning of encampments in the city of Barrie. That you can't. It's funny because we all know that if it takes you a week to break something, it's going to take you a year to fix it, right?
Sure.
Like it's just life. Go through 15 years of breaking something and tell me how long you think it's going to take to fix it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of the fixes aren't in our control. Like one of the major things that needs to happen is investment in the rehabilitative and hospital beds associated to extreme mental illness, right? Like there's people living with addictions and mental illness in the street that can't help themselves, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so right now in the province of Ontario, if I'm one of those people and I'm having an overdose, is it okay for you to hit me with naloxone? I'm asking a question. Is it okay for you to hit me with naloxone?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. It is.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So did you ask my permission?
No.
No. Did you go and do it?
Yes.
Did it save my life?
Yes.
Okay. Why does it wait till naloxone for that
intervention
to happen?
Right.
Right. It doesn't make sense. That does not make sense.
Yeah.
It's the old adage: a pinch of prevention is worth a pound of treatment.
100%. Right? Education to young people, prevention. Once somebody's like in that state. Yeah. And right now we can't just go help those people into mandatory rehab. In Manitoba,
they can.
An NDP government has instituted that.
Yep.
In BC, an NDP government has instituted a form of that as well.
Hmm.
In Alberta, Conservative government has instituted that. I hope we do that here. Like that's what we're pushing for. There's a group of mayors that are pushing for that. I think that the biggest issue that we face is it's really easy to do that when you have 1.5 million people in your province, right? When you have 16 million people, like we have at least 2 cities, maybe 3 you could say are probably the same size as Manitoba in terms of population.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
It is a big problem.
Yeah. I'm going to switch gears here for a second, and I wanted to see, we've seen some incredible community partnerships lately, and I have to say there's some great episodes out with some community partners that we've interviewed so far on the OFFSITE INSIGHT podcast. So if you haven't, take a listen to. But I think of projects like Youth Haven. So how important are industry partnerships, right? We've got private enterprise helping a social enterprise, and how does that help tackle that lack of housing supply or make improvements in our community that not only benefit the individuals who can use that service, but the community as a whole?
Yeah, politicians get to talk and then write on papers and pass motions and those types of things. What we saw out of the Home Builders Association, what we saw out of all the people who invested time and money and know-how, like knowledge, into getting Youth Haven done, like it just wouldn't have been done without. So if I'm like sitting here thinking about community partnerships, it is probably the most important thing. It's the most important piece. It's not always easy. right? Like when you're running a volunteer build, there's gonna be issues, right? Like there's gonna be people that go, sorry, I meant to be here Tuesday, but I can't get here till Thursday. But when you look at the last year and a half and the build at Youth Haven, the impact it's having and going to have, and the young people that are going to be life changed through that, and not everyone will. Like there'll be individuals that don't realize their potential who are staying at Youth Haven, but there's going to be a gazillion kids that do, right? That wouldn't be possible without the person swinging a hammer, using a drill, digging a basement, putting in a foundation, putting tarmac on the driveway. Like it's pretty incredible what that community partnership did, and I hope we see more of that in the future. Industry is so key because industry is the implementation piece of the ideas, right? The politicians are ideas and environment, right? Create the circumstances where it can happen. Industry are the ones who actually do it.
Yeah,
that's why our development charge program of $80 million is so important from our standpoint, because we're just trying to create the conditions where affordable housing and purpose-built housing can happen.
Can exist,
right?
Yeah.
But it really now falls to industry,
right,
to become partners in that endeavor, and then we can have all the dreams and hopes and motions and ideas in the world. If industry ain't making it happen, it's not worth the paper it's written on.
So on dreams and hopes, what's your vision for the future of Barrie? Let's say hypothetically you didn't run for mayor, and but you could. So this vision could not in any way, like benefit you personally. Let's just say, other than that, it comes to.
Yeah, this is easy. It doesn't matter if I'm running or not running, quite frankly. The vision that I've always had for the city of Barrie, like when I decided to go down the road of running for mayor, is that changing this into a city where like it worked for some people, it didn't for others. There's got to be a city that works for cradle to the grave, right? Like, and we don't always have those conversations. So like, what does that look like? And yeah, there's going to be individuals fall through the cracks, but by and large, how do you create a city that gives everybody opportunity at every moment in their life, right? So when you're looking at young people, it means the county's actually invested a ton in this child care. That's a big thing for infancy, right? And for toddlers, like it helps parents,
and also for parents. I was going
to
say it's also helpful for parents.
Well, sometimes helping the parents is helping the kids.
That's right, absolutely.
So there's that, and then you look at like, okay, rec centers. When I was a city council, right, we passed a rec center in Southeast Barrie in 2000. I always mess this up. It's either 7 or 8. Okay, gets approved. I get elected mayor. That was 2006. It's not 2026, right? We're elected mayor in 2022. Call it 23 by the time we have the conversation about the rec center because you're getting into office. And we still didn't own land for that rec center to go on. The council approved
20 years ago.
Yeah, doesn't make sense. So we've now done that. We've bought the land, Huronia Mackay. We're bringing 2 proposed rec centers into one, putting in 4 ice pads instead of 2 separate ones with 2 each. We're putting in 3 gymnasiums instead of 1 in each. We're putting in, I think it's 4 different pool sizes.
I got a request from a friend. Please put in a 50-meter
an Olympic pool.
Yeah,
I think I know the friend. So we're like doing all these things that are helping with those young people, like the YMCA, right? The YMCA sells their land. They don't have a place to go. There was all these tries. It failed, whatever. I told them, we're going to have a place for you to go. Give them $1 a year, or maybe it's a $2 a year lease over at Savin Arena to provide them the opportunity to go do all those amazing programs they do. It's supported by the county, it's supported by the city. These are really, really good things for young people. But then, like, as that person's growing up and they've gone through high school and they've gone to the Y and played ball like I did on Friday nights, and now they're like, hey, I want to go to university or college, right? Like, what are the college options? Like, we have massive college options in the city of Barrie, Georgia College, do amazing work, right? Then you look at the university side, we didn't have such a good program with that. So we've invested $7.5 million in getting Georgia College downtown. We're going to make another investment over time into that as well. We've put aside up to $20 million for Lakehead University. I think the number's around $9 million right now to get them downtown, to create a STEM hub, engineering, technology, right? These are pretty core to the future, AI related stuff that's coming in downtown. Now that young person doesn't have to leave Barrie to get a great education, right? And if they wanted a great education in the college realm, we had it. University, we didn't, right? So then you go to the next step and you say, well, I want to go out into the workplace. I just did my STEM program or I did my technician, and then I graduated from the STEM program. I went from college to university, and now like, where am I going to work? They're going to Toronto, right? That's just like 9 out of 10 will have to go to Toronto. So our next thing is like, we need the place where people don't sit on the highway in the morning and the evening. Instead, they're able to get their kids ready for school, drop them off, get to their work, finish their day, pick them up, go home, have dinner with their family or whatever that utopian view is.
And head back to the Y.
Yeah, exactly. Go back to the Y, get a workout in.
Or Shaq's World.
Or Shaq's World, or a city facility, because we own multiple. So it's like one of those things, and then you go, okay, well, how do I age in my community? Because one of the problems we have in the city of Barrie when it comes to housing, like you folks know this, there's a lot of like misses on the number of people living in a home compared to the size of the home. And it's not the person's fault who's like, if I sell my home, I'm actually going to lose in this equation, right? So we got to figure out how to invest in the right circumstances that allow seniors to move out of the 5-bedroom houses and 4-bedroom houses that they've had for 30 and 40 years in order to be able to move on. So the county, we're working on that right now. So the vision is like, you should be able to be born in Barrie or migrate to Barrie, and you should be able to get laid to rest in Barrie without having to fight against what we have to offer and leave to go somewhere else.
I think it's a beautiful vision.
Me too. There's a lot of work to do, but we have a beautiful city. Like the one thing you cannot replace, okay, is Barrie's proximity to our neighbors in the sense that they have all the hills, right? Like I go keep doing these snow-related media hits, right? And I try to get my 2 cents in. It's like, but snow is bad, but if you snowboard, ski, if you snowshoe or snowmobile, like, come to Barrie. You can stay here, you can eat here, you can stay at Horseshoe, you can stay, go out to Snow Valley, Mount St. Louis, Collingwood, all the stuff. There isn't a better year than this one to go and enjoy that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, my last question is, hey, let's ask the magic wand question. You get to change one thing tomorrow, whether it's provincially, federally, you get to do anything you want that immediately helps to unlock housing supply and affordability in Barrie. You get to wave your magic wand and it happens. What is it?
I've already done that. Yeah, I've already done that. That's like the program that we're putting in place to build affordable housing. The last major affordable housing was built in the city I grew up in. Think about that, right? We moved in 93. Moved out in 99. I tell my kids when I tell that story, they're there. I always say, no, not 1893. But how is it that that's the case? Right? So now, through the county build, 155 net new units, plus all the things that we're doing, like we're literally making up for 30 years of inaction. Right? And there's something really, really cool about that from my perspective, right? Like in the sense that if somebody hadn't built Mill Creek, we might have been on the street, right? There's a whole bunch of people that didn't have that for 30 years.
Yeah.
And we're finally able to right-size that. It's going to have a profound impact. It means that the tradespeople who are just starting out, who are earning $20 an hour, can actually afford to have a roof over their head without sharing it with 6 friends, right? And then that just allows that to grow. Like if you fix the base and the foundation, I really believe that the rest over time is gonna fall in place. Reduce the overall development charge costs. We've seen that it does have a positive impact on the rental side for sure, when paired with the federal government, CMHC, and all that stuff, right? I've said I sat in a room with developers and builders, okay, all the biggest ones, brought them in and said, guys and ladies, what can we do to get you building houses tomorrow? And literally it was like it was Christmas Eve. You could have heard a pin drop. Because when we said, okay, if we drop DCs to 0, will you start building tomorrow? The answer was no. Right? So that tells me the issue ain't development charges.
Right.
It might be part of the issue.
Sure.
Right? I'm not saying it's not any part of the issue.
Yep.
But it might be 50% of the issue. But solving the 50% only solves the 50% when you need 100% in order to get actually home building shovels in the ground. So there are some big issues that Toronto and Ottawa need to figure out. The Premier, to his credit, has been incredibly forward thinking on the GST, removing the HST. Sorry, we need the GST portion of that to be removed.
Yep.
And I think that's another piece, because if you pair that with a DC change and just getting approvals fast,
yep,
honestly, we might see the numbers coming at the right place. DCs by itself is just not going to get there. It's like $70,000 a door is not the nut to crack. The nut to crack is like $150 a door.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's some big work there.
Okay. So when can we look forward to seeing $500,000 homes again?
Well, you know, it's fun. I think that there's some opportunities to get to $400,000 homes. But it takes change in government policy on what we accept to be built, and it takes change in DCs, right? And I honestly believe if the HST gets waived, that's it. I think we can get to a $400,000, back-to-back townhouse.
Right.
And I can tell you, my brothers were different than me. They had lived longer. They're 6 or 7 years older. They hated the idea of coming from government housing. For me, I was young enough when we went there that it was just home. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Like I don't care. I have a roof over my head. This is sick. There's my bedroom. It was a closet, literally a closet. Okay. Yeah. Love my bedroom. So if we can get some of this stock to market that makes sense to build, and we get these federal provincial changes, it may not be what I buy today, right?
Yeah.
But if you had asked me when I was 14,
yeah,
I'd have been like, hell yeah, get me in there.
Yeah, brother.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Alex, I just want to say I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come out to support OFFSITE Insight, to share your thoughts with, I think the home builders community, but also the community at large as it relates to these issues. I think it's really important. So thank you so much for coming. Thanks for having me. And if you ever want to chat again in the future, let me know. Probably after the election. But, I was going to say, you could do your announcement right here. I'll be a contributor.
Yeah, you could be a regular contributor.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you again.
Thanks so much.
If you're interested in being a guest on the OFFSITE Insight podcast, please reach out to us at podcast@simcoecountyhomebuilders.ca, which is schba.ca.
Nice.
Thank you so much.
Sweet.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.